has been set out when it comes to protecting Kenyans on our roads, when it comes to public and private transport industry in Kenya. Now, to talk to us about road safety in our studio this morning is none other than Alfayo Otuke, who is the incoming CEO of Safety Plus Consulting Limited, just to talk to us about road safety. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's talk about first, before we even talk about the Road Safety Awards, where are we as a nation when it comes to road safety?
Maybe I may start by giving maybe our viewers the global road safety status. Right now, 1.3 million people are dying on our roads. And the largest number is actually children now, children between the age of 5 years and 29 years. Road accidents are the leading killer for them. And when we look globally, the traffic death rates, you realize like Africa is leading at 26.6% for every 100,000 people. The lowest globally on road safety status is Europe, which is performing at 9.7% for every 100,000 population of people. In our country, Kenya, between 3,000 people to around 13,000 people, that's according to World Health Organization statistics of 2018 last year, dying on our roads. This is the seriousness you could see on our roads in Kenya. In the year 2010, on the month of March, the General Assembly of UN came up with an idea of 5 pillars under the action, the decade of action, which started 2011 to 2020. That is exactly the status even our national agencies are currently using, with at least 5 pillars.
So where do we stand as a nation?
Kenya is one of about 5% of motoring in the world are in Africa. 95% are outside Africa, but about 80% of accidents happen in Africa. That's where we stand.
So you're saying about 5% of
motoring vehicles, the number of vehicles we have globally, less than 5% are in Africa. But more than 80% of accidents that happen globally happen in Africa. And now that's where Kenya is.
And I mean, talking to you is also an opportunity because you are the man behind, the brain behind the formation, the coming up of the National Transport and Safety Authority. And so many Kenyans have been asking, and you're in a position to answer it. Has NTSA achieved its mandate?
Yeah, in the year 2005, actually, under Minister of Transport, we were in the National Steering Committee, and one of our mandates was to advise the government on the way forward. And one of our primary recommendation was the establishment of National Transport and Safety Authority, as it is. Well, many Kenyans have asked a similar question, whether NTSA has achieved its role. It has not really achieved the dreams. But then, perhaps in my own observation as an expert or somebody who had an idea behind NTSA, I can say some of their setbacks are not their own making because the government has not properly funded NTSA. Without funds, there is nothing much you can do. Much of their operations rely on our money, taxes. And if we don't fund that agency, surely we cannot expect much from them. And this is exactly what Kenyans don't understand, that for good corporate governance, for NTSA to deliver, it will need funding.
And the reason as to why many Kenyans are asking, and I'm also asking you whether NTSA has achieved its mandate or not, it's because questions have always been asked as to why NTSA is carrying out the mandate of the traffic police officers because some time back, several years back, you would be on our roads, you'll see NTSA together with traffic police officers on our roads. Look at the, alcohol blow exercise, the same thing NTSA officials were doing the same thing, traffic police officers were doing. So who is overstepping on the mandate of who?
That conviction has always been there, and it has even elicited some wars on the road between the police and the NTSA. Maybe that culminated to His Excellency the President asking the NTSA to be out of the roads. Basically, when NTSA was formed, responsibility of motor inspection is shelved under NTSA. It's not the police. When we talk about Alikobro per se, the NTSA has got a function of coming up with policies that can enhance road safety in our country. Actually, the safety management is squarely under NTSA. It's not a function of the police.
Okay.
Now, the boundary Kribi, the function of the police basically is to enforce. So the enforcement is what Kenyans confuse whether who should be enforcing. But the reality is NTSA come up with policies, the police enforce the policies.
Okay. Now, let's talk about something that's really interesting. That is the introduction, the launch.
Yeah.
You know, after SGR was launched, and so many Kenyans have been using SGR to Mombasa because it's affordable, it takes a shorter time to reach the coastal region. But there has been a tussle between SGR and truck owners. What do you have to say about that?
Essentially, the tussle between SGL and truckers is a government cost, to be very honest. I am outgoing CEO of KTA, the truckers. I've managed the truckers for a few years, I know. When SGL idea came to Kenya, the government did not take it upon itself, but has to advise, to call the stakeholders. If you look at our progressive constitution, basically it enhances or talks about stakeholders being involved from word go. Transporters were left out, right from the word go. Up to the launch of it, they could not understand how the two split model will partner to each other. Because they felt that they are left out, the outcome you see now is exactly because the government did not get it right from the beginning.
Okay.
But let's look at it slightly. When we talk about removing trucks from the road, we are not being realistic because there are many things Kenyans are not told. The truckers keep the tire industry going. How many tires truckers use per day? Look at the oil industry. 40% of diesel consumed in this country, it is consumed by truckers. These truckers have got, it's a requirement by law for them to have warehouses and where they park their trucks. They have invested millions, actually close to 600 billion Kenyan shillings. So when we talk, we wake up one morning. The problem with Kenya is that we just come up one morning and something has to die and something has to. Okay. In reality, it's only taking from one hand and giving to the other hand, the same person.
All right, right. Mr. Tuke, I'll ask you to take a short break.
Yes.
But when we come back, we shall still continue talking to the incoming CEO of Safety Plus. He's also the man behind the formation of the National Transport and Safety Authority. This morning, you're talking about matters road safety. And when we come back also, we shall be having an interesting discussion about road safety when it comes to public transport for Kenyans on our roads. How safe are we as the government put in place all the necessary measures that's needed for your safety and my safety as you use public service vehicles. All that after the short commercial break that we're taking right now.
This is KTN News.
Win 25 million with Lotto Joto. Draw every day at 9 p.m. Send 50 bob to pay bill 298899. Account Joto.
Televisheni yenye burudani kabambe na tena kubwa zaidi ipo sasa kwenye kingamuzi chako.
Show babu kubwa imeanza sasa.
Tunakupeperushia sinema, muziki, michezo ya kuigiza na vipindi vingine murwa kabisa.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Tushatoka bandarini na meli imeng'oa nanga. Unaweza kututazama kwenye Star Times 172, Zuku Channel 18, GoTV 807, Pamba Channel 7 na Pang 172. Usikose kuburudika kwenye Burudani TV.
From the revolt, reforms and democratization wave in North Africa, to the new dawn and calls for economic revival in Southern Africa, and the ambitious infrastructure development wave in East Africa, we focus on regional newsmakers with on-point discussions highlighting the trendsetters in various aspects of our society, not forgetting a touch of culture. This is Bottom Line Africa.
Nilikuwa najiangalia kwa kioo naanza kulia kwa sababu unapata ukitembea kwa barabara saa zingine watoto wanakutoroka.
The doctor confirmed I was dead. Na nikaekwa kwa body bag na nikapelekwa kwa semi-morgue.
In the middle, a voice spoke and said, Faith, I will heal you. You will regain your health, strength, and you will go back to school.
It became like a whole school affair because they want to see what's there between my legs. They want to see if I go for a short call, do I stand or do I scoot?
When I was more of a moving from Mary Waithera to James Karanja, and because people in the society could not accept fully, so most of the time they used to treat me as an outcast.
If Kenya has to undergo through a referendum, let us do a proper audit of the current constitution so that we are addressing issues that are not serving us as Kenyans at the moment. So that it's not just about political positioning, but it's about the people of Kenya.
This is KTN News.
Welcome back to KTN News Center. Now this morning, just remind you, it is that the First Family and Kenyans in general will today remember the founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who died on this day in 1978. And of course, we expect President Uhuru Kenyatta any time from now to make his way to the mausoleum, of course, the place where the body of the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, the founding father of Kenya, was buried. What you're seeing right now are live pictures for you on your screen. We can see the clergy already there, the police band is already there, just waiting for the arrival of the First Family, and of course led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, just to remember the day that the founding father died in 1978. All right, now away from that, let's continue having this discussion on matters road safety with Alfayo Otuke, who is the incoming CEO of Safety Plus Consulting Limited. We're talking about road safety. And Mr. Otuke, what I want to ask you is, let's have a look at the challenges of commuter service in Kenyan towns, specifically Nairobi City. Because, you know, recently we also saw, I don't know whether you watched the news, but we also saw road accident within the CBD around railways station, and someone would wonder, how safe are we even within the central business district?
The PSV sector in this country is chaotic, and you will agree with me that efforts by everybody has not given fruits, because perhaps lane caught with us before some policies were put in place. The city of Nairobi is one of very chaotic. I've really traveled quite a number of cities across the world, but when we see what we have around here is chaos. One morning when perhaps the governor will wake up and say all matatus will not be allowed into this CBD.
The CBD brought a lot of a lot of discussion.
Yeah, so these guys, they organize themselves, say, oh yeah, they start those kind of hurabos and all that. And at the end of the day, you realize the governor gives in, and that one, we continue having the same problem. In a well-ordered city like Nairobi, we need to have a balanced model spirit. Model spirit is, even the SGL you asked me about earlier, should have gone to the CBD. You know, the SGL is in Machakos, not even Nairobi town.
Yes.
So when we talk that it is a trip between Nairobi and Mombasa and Nairobi, we lie to Kenyans. It's a trip between Mombasa and Machakos.
To Machakos.
Because the stage is off the city of Nairobi. It should have been lied to the city. so that it can be able to be of more value to people using the SGR.
But I mean, the argument would be, why have it within the CBD, yet we have the Kenya Railways, we have the train station at the railways, bus station, and of course Kenyans use it every day to go to work, to commute from home to work, work to home.
Kenya Railway is doing their trams on meter gauge railway. We are talking about the standard gauge railway, which is an idea that the government and all of us are proud about.
Yeah.
There is no interchange. There is no interchange between SGR and meter gauge railway, such that when passengers are dropped in the stage here, they are able to be taken to the CBD through meter gauge railway. So that connection is missing.
Okay.
We would be having tunnels. In fact, in good ordered cities, we have tunnels where passengers are taken under. You don't even need to be above. So you would have even a stage for SGR right in the city center, but underground.
Okay.
So that up here, Kenyans are doing some other things, but underground, the railway stage is there. It would have been very viable. Everybody would have supported it. But right now, even if you carry cargo between Mombasa and Nairobi, you need again a truck to evacuate the cargo from Nairobi to your home or to your factory. So this is exactly earlier where I was saying the model spirit, the way railway, road are meeting is chaotic.
But Mr. Otuke, from the way you're talking,
Yeah.
you sound like we are still far as a country from achieving road safety, and not just road safety, but also rail safety for Kenyans.
Brenda, we are very far. And although I can say that if you look at the East Africa countries, Kenya has put systems in place, at least on safety management, which is the first bit of the UN Decade of Action. Kenya has established it through NTSA. But when you look at the region itself, to compare to Kenya, you realize like a country like Rwanda is doing so well.
Kenya is still far.
Yes,
is it because of the, is it because of the fact that stakeholders and the government are not reading from the same page? Because it's good you mentioned the fact that some time back, just recently this year, when Nairobi County government said we won't be accepting, public service vehicles within the CBD, we saw a lot of, back and forth within the county governments, between the county governments and stakeholders. At some point, it was taking a political, argument, with the county government. So is it the fact that both the county government, the national government, and stakeholders are not reading from the same point has caused the country to lag behind when it comes to road safety and, of course, safety for Kenyans when it comes to the public service vehicles?
It is a situation of getting policies wrong, or our priorities wrong. And number two, it is a lack of political goodwill. If, for example, anything wanted to be done, take, for example, the Huduma number. Yeah. When people said they don't want, the government stood firm.
And said you have to have it.
You have to have it. What in case today, the government did the same. You remember Michuki rules.
Yes.
Although I don't want to sit here and say Michuki rules, they were traffic rules which Michuki implemented. So during the Michuki time, the government stood firm. And you saw the difference between that time and now. So if there is no political goodwill, right from the presidency, not the governor of Nairobi. If we don't have our priorities right, then road safety is far from being achieved in this country.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, even if you told Mike Sonko, the governor of Nairobi, that please can you put road safety in place? Yes. But he has to work in partnership with the national government. So if the national government wants to give impetus, which has got full infrastructure, some of the county governments don't even have infrastructure. They have no capacity to do these things. Yeah. So they rely more on the central government. NTSA is not a devolved function. NTSA is under the national government. Although under the Constitution, actually road safety is devolved. If you look at the fourth schedule of our Constitution, distribution of functions between national government and county government, road safety equally is a devolved function.
And it's good you mentioned policy when you're explaining road safety within the counties. And there has been a concern by Kenyans. The fact that the government is talking about infrastructure, we're building roads, and the roads are so smooth. Yeah. But then the way people drive on these roads, it begs the question, like, what should the government do to ensure that, look at Thika Superhighway, we've seen lots and lots of accidents, the latest being that of the late Di Matthew. You know, several people, prominent people have died on our roads, and is the question about, yes, having the country having smooth roads and not probably, people say you have to put bumps on our roads, you have to put zebra crossing. What policy should we have to ensure that as much as we invest in infrastructure, we also bring down the number of road accidents?
Okay, I like to appreciate that question by saying I want to thank NTSA currently, and through the input of Minister Matiang'i, to close down some schools. You know, madam, we have got a very poor training culture in this country. You know, for a few days ago, it is only in Kenya where you can take a weekend, you have a driving license. The national curriculum, which was proposed by NTSA, most stakeholders, me and you, Kenyans, refused. They went to court and said, we don't want this. So let me tell you, the problem in Kenya is the Kenyan people themselves. If we wanted to change, we can change. Surely you can't be policed by police wherever you are. In Nairobi alone has got about 6 million Kenyans. We have about maybe 30,000 police officers in Nairobi. They can't man all those guys, all of them.
Okay.
The vehicles in Kenya are now reaching into millions. And the police are very few.
Okay. Now, the Road Safety Awards, as we bring this conversation to almost an end, the Road Safety Awards, it's now in its 20th anniversary. It's happening on Friday. What do you take in, what do you look at when having this Road Safety Awards? What the categories and what you look at, and the sort of people that you allow to present the applications for the awards?
The Road Safety Award is part of the supplement efforts by Safety Plus Consulting Limited to the government, because we are only playing a role of supplementing what the government is doing. On road safety, we look at those institutions that have done one thing or two to make our roads safer. For example, if we have a tire category, we look at this particular one tire versus others. How safe is this tire? How long does it put you on the road? And in case of so many accidents that have happened due to tire burst, which particular brand do they come from? So when we assess this data, we are able to analyze and find that this particular one tire is slightly safer. We are talking about bodybuilders, the fabricators. If you have seen of late, buses cause an accident and the body is ripped off.
Completely,
because of poor fabrication, using very substandard materials, and putting that bus on the road to kill as many Kenyans as it can. So we look at those fabrications and their standards, and we award institutions that have really tried to put a structure that in case of any impact on a road accident, it can withstand a little bit. Then we look at the safety standards of like PSV bus companies, like a bus like Easy Coach, which has won more than 9 times this award. If you look at their standards, basically you would agree with the awarding program because it provides the best service.
Are you trying to preempt that Easy Coach might end up winning this year's award?
I don't want to say that now. We shall wait until next week Friday.
But as much as you're awarding these companies that you're saying that have taken into consideration the safety of Kenyans while manufacturing their products, at the end of the day, one would ask, then what is the benefits of this award? Is it just to recognize these companies and to ensure that they have more business?
No. Our objective is not basically for them to get more business, of course they will, but also to ask the rest to emulate what the others are doing better on our roads to save life, because the bottom objective is to save life. And the only way is if you change your attitude, I changed mine, we are actually going to save our lives. And the bottom line, in Kenya now, if you ask me what we shall do as a Kenya people, is change of attitude. If we knew that this road safety is ours, and you start from yourself towards others, then we would achieve this. So if these institutions in their budgeting, they can look at road safety as not as an investment, as CSR, something they return back to the community from where they're trading, then Kenya would be safe. And finally, on that particular point, remember the government cannot do it alone. Most people shout a lot when an accident comes. Oh, the government was not there when a particular driver was driving, when he's eating or is making a call. It is your personal attitude when you are driving. So we can't stand here and blame the government.
All right. And lastly, Mr. Otuke,
Yeah.
as we bring this conversation to an end, are we also looking, is the award also looking at individuals? Because there's some Kenyans who, dedicated their time and their life to stand on the roads just to ensure that there's safety.
Yes, we shall be launching first ever National Road Safety Club, where I would also urge Brenda to be part of it. Here, we will be looking at individuals, those particular persons who have done exemplary job in road safety. Some can even come with poems, and those poems can lead to as many schools as possible and can make our children change and become good ambassadors of tomorrow. There are those ones who have embraced good systems of governance in their institutions to ensure that their drivers, their staff are very safe, including Standard Media Group. We will be able to assess and see how do you move your staff from one point to the other.
And I'm sure you've seen how Standard Group, the Standard Group Limited, as you've also seen when you walked in,
yes,
we've ensured there's safety, road safety within our company. You've seen the zebra crossing, you've seen the walk path for, for the staff.
Yeah, there's some sense of order.
Yeah.
I saw it when coming in, and I recommended, and I say perhaps to the management that keep it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alfayo Otuke, the incoming CEO of this Safety Plus Consulting Limited. He was also the man behind the formation of the National Transport and Safety Authority, an expert in matters of road safety. Thank you so much for talking to us here on